Makes me remind you all, training for campaign sidekick today. Keep saying it. I need you guys to know. All right, our next speaker is running for U.S. Senate, John Ellis, right? Ellis.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is John Ellis. I'm running for the U.S. Senate. I want to start with a very simple question for all of you. Do you think California is heading in the right direction? Yes or no?
No.
I happen to agree with you. But the surprise is that now nearly 60% of California voters agree with us too. That's the opportunity. For the first time in nearly a generation, folks that have been voting Democrat all their lives are finally waking up and saying inflation is out of control, crime is out of control, homelessness is out of control, and our educational outcomes are terrible. And that's exactly why I'm running. So let me tell you a little bit about who I am, because I'm sure many of you are saying, who on earth is this John Ellis guy? So first and foremost, I'm a husband, I'm a father of 2 young daughters, I'm a business owner, and I'm a government advisor. I worked with the Small Business Administration, I worked with the Department of Commerce under George Bush, and I've advised governments, international, federal, state, local. And the main purpose of what I was doing was to say that there are opportunities for the government to serve the people without increasing resources, without increasing taxation. So for example, we worked with the state government to reduce the number of days that it took to process food stamps from 30 days to same day, without adding a dime, right? That helps a family that is in need of those kinds of services. Or for example, we were working with another state government that was spending so much on elderly care because they were spending it disproportionately on nursing homes, when in reality, a lot of the elderly community wanted to stay in their homes. So we provided them those services, food services, transportation services, nursing services, so they could stay in their home and have better outcomes, and better outcomes for taxpayers too. Those are the kinds of solutions that we can aspire towards to be able to get better outcomes when government works for the people. But I've also seen what happens when government doesn't work for the people. I'm the son of 2 Iranian immigrants. They came around the time of the Iranian Revolution. My family has seen tyranny. They've seen what happens when government goes completely haywire. And we as immigrants, we're so appreciative of everything that this country has given us. This is the reason why everyone in our community is so excited about getting involved in the political process, because they're scared about what they're seeing all around them. And you may be wondering how on earth someone from West LA ended up becoming a Republican.
Yeah.
It's because of those very values. It's because of that background of seeing what can happen. So what am I running on? I'm running on inflation, education, crime. Those are the big issues that are affecting all of us. On inflation, 64% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck. So when we're seeing inflation at 8.5%, you know that's affecting folks. We see it at the gas pump, we see it at the supermarkets. And there's a direct connection between the $1.9 trillion fiscal bomb that was dropped last year and the inflation we're experiencing now. Even Democrat economic advisors are saying that was one of the biggest policy blunders ever. And so what you're gonna see in your next US Senator here is someone that's going to oppose any further fiscal stimulus. We don't need it. Our economy can do fine as long as government gets out of the way. But more than that, we've also got to solve the immediate crises that we have. So gas prices, for example, it is insane to me that they are not proposing a suspension of the gas tax, state and federal. When people are spending $100, $120, $150, they're spending the same as a flight to be able to just get around town. There is the problem, and we don't have the leadership right now to be able to step in and say enough is enough on behalf of taxpayers, Americans, day to day. On education, one, we've seen that the educational outcomes in this state consistently rank amongst the worst. And this isn't a resource problem. This is a leadership problem. We have poured federal, state, county resources at this issue. The problem has been, and we all know it, a teachers union that has removed accountability from the educational system. And we've seen that generation after generation. But for the first time ever, we've seen something more sinister that's come out of the fact that we don't have accountability. It's these new concepts, it's these new ideas that have been introduced behind the backs of parents. And my wife and I, we don't know what on earth is going on. We don't know what we're going to do with our 3-year-old and our 1-year-old in the educational system. We heard the other day a mom, she came up to me and she said, my 7-year-old came to me and said, Mom, do we hate black people? And she said, no, of course not. Well, why would you even think that? She said, well, the teacher told us today that we have to all write letters of apology to the black community. That's the kind of division and hatred and nonsense that's being introduced in schools. And when parents are taken out of the decision-making process, this is what happens. And so we need to make sure that when the federal government is giving $9 billion to California for education, that we make sure that parents have to have a seat at the table. We use that as leverage to make sure that parents have to be part of the decision-making anytime there are major curriculum decisions that are being done. On crime, I agree 100% with Nathan Hoffman. Criminals are no longer being held accountable. And what's amazing is that I spent about a year in Argentina. Argentina is a beautiful country, but it's a third world country. And when I was working for the US Embassy down there, one of the first pieces of guidance that we got was that when you're walking the streets of Buenos Aires, you make sure that you keep as little in your wallet as possible, that you don't wear any jewelry, that you don't wear a watch. That is the same guidance that the LAPD is now giving us. In a country of our tremendous resources, that is what's happening. And it's because we've removed the accountability structure with criminals. When criminals are not prosecuted, this is what happens. But we, as common sense conservatives, we know that that's not where the story ends. We also have to use the time that criminals are incarcerated as an opportunity to invest in them and make sure that they reintegrate into society. Not only is that the right thing to do, to give them the business skills and the life skills, it's also the fiscally responsible thing to do. Because our recidivism rates, the rates at which the incarcerated folks end up back in prison, are astronomical. 60-70% of folks end up right back in prison. And so we have to be able to solve these issues. And unfortunately, because of the one-party rule that we've had in this state, these issues have gone unaddressed again and again and again. And so I hope that you'll consider voting for me. What I hope to bring to this table is a real challenge to the democratic structure. The great news is that we've got a challenger, we've got an appointed incumbent right now that most voters have never even heard of. Alex Padilla is a guy that Gavin Newsom put in place when Kamala Harris became vice president. 25 years as a career politician in California. That's a massive liability in this cycle. And so if ever a cycle, if ever a race, for us to say enough is enough, it's this one. And that's the fight I hope to bring. So John Ellis for US Senate, thank you so much for this opportunity.